So I haven't posted on the channel in a minute, but my laptop's been messing up, and so I'm recording this on my phone. I don't, the setup might be look a little different, but I don't care. I'm just focusing on being consistent more. So it's, I'm not pausing my mission for equipment, and the videos are going to continue on this channel regardless. It's better to be imperfect in motion than perfect in delay. So I just want, so the fact of the matter is the people who win aren't really the most talented people. They're the ones who don't interrupt their own momentum. So all of you can take this into to account personally, because for me personally, I will perceive this as I didn't really mess this up, but I would perceive it as I found a leak into my system, because now my real bottleneck is it's not gear editing or setup or even the environment. It's execution, consistency under imperfect conditions. That's the real game. So own your time, multiply your leverage, build what outlives you. Right now, owning your time, what does that mean? Not waiting on broken conditions. Multiplying your leverage, what does that mean? Using the tool you already have. Build what outlives you means protecting consistency more than aesthetics. That's the truth. That's what needs to be taken into consideration when you're building with the minimal resources that you have, because all the other stuff, beautiful stuff, doesn't really matter. It's just showing up every day, posting every day, send out your weekly newsletters, doing your long form YouTube videos once a week, and you just consistently doing that, and building your products, building around that, and you just expand. All the other things, trying to follow up or trying to copy all these other creators, all these people on this social media is going to drive you crazy, drive you nuts when you're trying to be perfect. Strive for perfection, but just be okay. Not only just be okay, but be willing to fail. Be willing to make yourself look like a fool. Be willing to mess up, because you're going to mess up. So something that's been on my mind. I've been thinking about really a lot lately is that what actually remains valuable when machines start doing more and more of what humans used to get paid for. I've been talking a lot about this on my channel. I've been talking a lot about this onto the people, but this is not in theory. This is not some sci-fi fantasy. This is reality. What can human beings still do that machines can't fully replace? I wrote this out. I wrote this newsletter. So it's a lot. I just jot my thoughts down. So I'm reading off my newsletter right now, off my letter. I haven't released this yet, but I wanted to share this with you all on my channel. So you all are the first people who I'm talking to this about, which is a most recent article, a letter that I've written about this topic that I've pretty much talked about a lot of times on this channel. So what kind of work survives? Another question I ask myself is, what kind of person survives? And maybe the bigger question that I asked myself was, what should someone even be learning right now? What is the most important thing that a person should be learning at any age? If the world is changing faster than schools, institutions, and most adults can keep up with, then, because that's the real fear underneath everything. People keep saying, what should kids learn? What skills will still matter in 20 years? What careers are even safer anymore? And the deeper I've gotten into AI, automation, education, work, entrepreneurship, and the future of value, the more obvious one thing has become to me. Most people are asking the wrong question. The question is not, what job should I prepare for? The question is what kind of human being do I need to become so I can adapt to almost any future? Any future, any time, any environment, anywhere. That's the game. Because the future doesn't belong to the person trained for one task. It belongs to the person who can think, who can adapt, learn, persuade, build, and reorient quickly. So in this video, I want to break down what I think actually matters. Not just career skills, not just trendy skills, but the deeper stack underneath all of it. The stuff that lets a person remain useful, sovereign, and difficult to replace. I talked about that on my last video, not in the last video, but in my last newsletter, the 5 pillars that I came up with: overall health, wealth, sovereignty, energy, and time. So those are the 5 pillars that I say to myself when any decision making, if whatever I do, whatever I'm involved in, whatever I'm creating, whatever I'm writing, whatever I'm reading, whoever I'm around, whatever, if it's not feeding into those 5 pillars, to these 5 pillars that I created, it wasn't time, it was money. If it wasn't those 5 pillars that I created, then I'm not going to participate in it. Point blank, period. So you have to really, when you're moving through life, you have to really ask yourself a question. And regardless of anything, whoever you're dealing with, any situation, am I going to participate in this? And the question that determines are you going to participate in this or not should revolve around the fact of those 5 pillars. If you really care about your personal evolution, if you care about yourself evolving infinitely until the day you die, then your 5 pillars, I will argue, is your money, your wealth, your overall health, your sovereignty, and your energy. I almost forgot the other one. And your energy. Those, I will say, are the 5 pillars that contributes to your personal evolution. I know other people will probably try to argue about other things, but like, oh, about family, what about etc. No, you have to take care of yourself first before you can even try to invest in other people. Because really, to be honest with you, if you're not taking care of your own self, your own personal responsibilities, those 5 pillars, which I will argue are really strong basic needs, you're going to look into other people to invest in those things for you. And then I will say that's how you can become toxic. That's how you become a leech. And you not intentionally doing it, but that's kind of what you're doing, because nobody can feed into those things more than you can. Your body is your greatest asset. So with your body being your greatest asset, you have to invest into your greatest asset. Nobody can do that but you. I don't care if you're married, whatever. Your parents can't do that more than you can. Not even God can do that more than you can. That's why we got free will. So you have the freedom. You have to take the agency for you to be able to invest into your autonomy and your sovereignty. It's your responsibility into your evolution. So I'll say the old model trained workers, not sovereign people. So we're going to start there. Most of the modern education model was not built to create free, self-directed, high agency people. It wasn't. It was built to create useful workers, obedient people who can follow instructions, tolerate boredom, complete assignments, and fit into systems designed by somebody else. That's the truth. From the time you're young, the script is already being handed to you. Do the assignment, follow directions, memorize this, regurgitate that, get the grade, get approved, get credit, get credentialed, get hired, stay useful, stay dependent. That's what this was built around. And then people wondered why so many adults feel lost, because they were trained to complete tasks, not design a life. That's what I'm doing. That's what what I'm doing right now is just like being a lifestyle designer. How can we as people evolve? And we have to become obsessed with how we're going to design our life for us to keep infinitely evolving. So people were trained to satisfy external demands, not generate internal direction. And those are two very different things. A person who only knows how to respond to assignments will always need someone else to provide the assignment. That means the school tells them what to learn. The boss tells them what to do. The market tells them what they're worth. And eventually technology decides whether they're still needed. That is not sovereignty. That is dependency with better branding. If you don't choose your purpose, one will be chosen for you. This is one of the biggest realizations a person can have. If you do not choose your own aim, you will inherit someone else's. And once someone else controls the aim, they also control what you learn, what you practice, what you ignore, what you fear, and what you become useful for. That's what people miss. Goals are not some cute self-help idea. Goals determine identity, because whatever goal you accept, you start collecting the knowledge, habits, and skills required to pursue it. So if your goals are chosen by your parents, your teachers, your employer, your peer group, your culture, then your development is being routed by someone else's design. And if most people around you are unhappy, trapped, confused, tired, medicated, passive, or resentful, why would you want the same script they followed? You have to ask yourself this question. You have to be honest with yourself. That's the real question. Do not betray yourself for the sake of pleasing other people, because most people aren't suffering from lack of intelligence. They're suffering from borrowed direction. True education is not job training. This is where I think the distinction needs to be made. Education, in the highest sense, is not just preparation for employment. Education to teach a person how to think, how to learn, how to judge, how to adapt, how to survive change, how to remain stable when the environment isn't, and how to build a life that is not completely dependent on institutional approval. That's education. Everything else is narrower training. Useful, maybe. Necessary, sometimes, but still narrow. If a person only knows one task in one system, under one authority, for one type of reward, that person is fragile. And fragility is expensive in a rapidly changing world. So the goal is not just to collect career-specific skills. The goal is to build the underlying human capacities that let you move across domains, because specific tools change, specific software change, specific platforms change, specific jobs change, but certain deeper capacities remain valuable. That's what you need to invest in, the future-proof stack. So let's make this practical. What are the deeper skills that still matter even if the technical surface keeps changing? Here's the stack I would bet on. Logic. The ability to derive truth from facts, to think clearly, to stop contradiction, to separate signal from rhetoric. Because if you can't reason, you can be programmed by noise. Research. The ability to investigate what you do not know. How to search, how to compare, how to question sources, how to form a useful map from scattered information. The future belongs to people who can learn fast without waiting to be taught. When I say fast, I don't mean like just you're like a fast learner. What I mean is you learning it fast, you're learning it faster minus the distractions. Learning it much faster than being unnecessarily slow is what I'm saying, because you getting caught up in analysis paralysis. You're just a slow learner, and you're not even a slow learner. You're not an efficient learner. An effective, efficient learner is going to learn a lot more faster than a person who's not strategic, and who's not effective, who's not efficient. I'm naturally a slow learner, but I'm a slow learner because I go deep into theory. I go very deep into theory. I want to know why, and I keep asking myself why. I'm a radical. And I mean by radical, by to its purest sense, is going to the deep underlying root of everything, of things. I don't like to just know the shallow information. So when I say in fast, I'm not saying being a shallow learner and just like a microwave pop, but you're just going to know physics overnight. What I'm saying fast is minus subtraction of the distractions. That's what I mean. Okay. So yeah. So number 3, rhetoric and persuasion. The ability to communicate, influence, and frame value, not deception, persuasion. If you can't persuade, your only option is hoping someone notices you and gives you a chance. That's weak positioning. Number 4, practical psychology. Understanding what motivates people, what people fear, what they desire, how they justify decisions, how they avoid pain, how they move toward meaning. If you don't understand human nature, you will keep misreading the world. I've talked about this so many times on my channel, and I'm going to keep talking about it because human nature is important. Human nature is important. So, number 5, agency. The ability to make decisions without waiting for permission, to move, to test, to act, to create a path instead of starting at one. This may be the most important one, because without agency, every other skill sits unused. Number 6, entrepreneurship. And I'm using this in a broader sense, not a startup type of sense. I mean the ability to identify problems, create value, package value, distribute value, and build something that can sustain itself. That is one of the most future-proof capacities a person can develop, because it forces you to integrate everything else. So my version of this stack is, if I simplify into my own language, this stack becomes marketing and sales, writing and thinking, which I love to do. There's just only few other things in this world that I love more than writing and thinking, which will more than likely probably be acting. Acting is probably the only thing that I love more than writing and thinking. And then we got entrepreneurship, technical know-how, personal interest as the source material. That's the real stack. Why? Because if you don't know how to attract attention and persuade people, you stay invisible. If you don't know how to think and write, you can't articulate value. If you don't know how to build and structure value, you stay independent. If you don't know how to use the tools of the current era, you become outdated. And if you don't have genuine interests, your work becomes hollow, generic, and forgettable. That combination matters. Not one skill, a stack, a living stack. No one can hand this to you. This is the important part. Nobody can teach you these things in the old sense. They can show you what worked for them, what they tested, what patterns they found, what principles seem to hold, but they cannot transfer mastery into your nervous system. You have to build that yourself. That means first you study processes that have worked for others, then you apply them, then you look at results, then you identify patterns, then you refine your own process, then eventually you pass some version of that down. That's real education, not memorization, experimentation, pattern recognition, iteration, embodiment. Technical skills matter, but they are not the foundation. This is another place people get confused. Yes, technical know-how matters. Yes, tools matter. Yes, social media matters. Yes, newsletters matters. Yes, websites, funnels, design, AI workflows, and distribution matters. But those are application layers. They are not the core. The core is still, can you think? Can you judge? Can you communicate? Can you create value? Can you direct yourself? Because technical environments change. The deeper stack lets you adapt to the new environment when it does. Coding is a good example. I used to love to code. I still kind of code here and now and then, but I have directed my vision right now towards more, I'll say, more valuable skills right now. And because I think that's going to be more valuable than just coding and programming and learning Python. The syntax may change. The tools may change. The workflow may change, but the ability to reason through systems, solve problems, and structure logic, that remains the same. So don't confuse today's tool with tomorrow's permanence. Your interests matter more than people think. Now we get to the part most people overcomplicate. They ask, what should I write about? What niche should I choose? What should I build? What if my interests aren't profitable? Here's the cleaner answer for you. Start with what you cannot stop thinking about, the ideas that keep showing up in your search history, the books you naturally move toward, the problems that bother you, the things you keep explaining to people without being asked, the kind of work, world, or product you wish existed. That's where you begin. Not because every interest is automatically profitable, but because interests contain energy. And energy sustained over time becomes expertise. People try to find a profitable niche without understanding that in the modern world, a huge part of value is created through framing, persuasion, and distribution. People don't just find niches, they create them. You are the niche. They shape attention. So they build perception. They gather the right people around a problem, a worldview, a standard, a taste. Stop asking what niche exists. You're the niche, and start asking what problem, obsession, standard, or perspective am I willing to build around long enough for other people to care? That's the better question. I'm not trying to yell at you. Sorry if I'm yelling. So the second renaissance belongs to the generalist specialists. This is how I see the current era. Not specialists alone, not generalists alone, generalist specialists, deep generalists. I like to use the word polymath as well, or you can, modern day renaissance individual, people with broad cognitive range, but real depth somewhere. People who can connect domains, think across systems, and still do real work at a high level. This is being a synthesizer. That combination is deadly because most people are either too narrow to adapt or too scattered to compound. The sweet spot is range with depth. That's why someone who understands psychology, persuasion, economics, writing, AI, business, design, human behavior, human nature, geography, human anatomy, has a huge advantage over someone who only knows one function inside one institution. This is why I keep saying the future does not reward passive specialists. It rewards adaptable builders. The internet is the decentralized university. This part is obvious, but people still resist it. The most relevant education on earth is being built in real time online. But people doing the work, testing ideas, by people doing the work, testing ideas, publishing results, refining frameworks, and passing down what they learn. That doesn't mean everything online is good. No. This is where your judgment comes into play. This is where your taste comes into play. Not everything online is good, but it's a beautiful thing that everything can be found online, everything can be learned online. That's a skill within itself. You having the right taste, which reflects your good judgment based on what you are going to pay attention to and what you're going to learn and what you're not going to learn, what you're going to do and not do, what you're going to participate in and what you're not going to participate in. A lot of it is garbage. Yes, even if you use AI, if you give AI garbage, it's going to give you garbage. If you use AI, if you give AI slop, it's going to give you slop. But that's not the point. The point is that if you do not know how to learn online, you are at a massive disadvantage because institutions move slowly. The world does not. So if you are still depending on old systems to update you in time, you are already behind that. So that doesn't mean formal education has no value. It means formal education is not enough, especially if your goal is freedom, adaptability, or future control, autonomy, because nobody can credential you into sovereignty. At some point, you have to become the thing. No degree makes you a business owner. No curriculum makes you high agency. No certificate makes you sovereign. You become that through action. Mastery is creative and specific. Let's end on something practical. Mastery is not just being smart, and it's not just grinding harder than everybody else. Mastery is the fusion of specific domain knowledge with creative power and independent direction. If you only have intelligence but no domain understanding, you can't solve. I don't like using the word solve, but you can't solve real problems. I'm saying solve so you can understand what I'm saying, but solutions doesn't exist. I'm going to say is you cannot find better alternatives to real problems, to your problems. You cannot find better options to your problems. Like Thomas Sowell said, solutions don't exist. It's only trade-offs. So if you only have one domain knowledge, but no creative or entrepreneurial ability, you stay dependent on someone else's structure. So mastery requires both. Know something real and be able to do something with it. That's the formula. You need domain knowledge, persuasive skill, communication skill, technical application, and the ability to turn that into value under your own direction. That is how you become difficult to replace. Technology is not slowing down. It never will. Well, I don't want to speak in terms of absolutes, but it's not slowing down anytime soon. I'll put it to you like that. Being afraid of that fact will not help you. The move is not panic. The move is study. Use the tools, understand the tools, train yourself faster with the tools, build with the tools. I don't want to say the move is study. The move is to train. Train yourself. But underneath all of that, develop the human stack that gives those tools direction. Because the people who survive the next era are the ones who memorize a fixed path. They are the ones who learned how to choose, think, adapt, build, and keep moving. So don't ask what single job is safe. Ask what kind of person becomes valuable in almost any environment. Build that person. And the future gets a lot less terrifying. What will your higher self do? Thank you so much for watching. It's Dante. And we'll be back very soon. Have a great day. Bye.